All right. Welcome back to another edition of the Players Corner. Today we have Caroline Segal, who comes from reigning NCAA champion Middlebury. Thank you so much, Caroline, for joining us today.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm excited to be here.
All right, so first we're going to start with everybody's favorite section, the fan questions. So our first fan question is Sophia asked how long you've been playing.
I started playing field hockey my freshman year of high school, actually. Um, Kind of a fun story. My school is small and requires all freshmen to play fall sports to get to know people and kind of get used to the school. And my brother encouraged me to play field hockey because he said it was one of the most fun teams on campus. And my coaches at the time were NESCAC alumni, so I had an Amherst alumni and Middlebury alumni coaching me and teaching me the ropes. And I just fell in love with the sport as a freshman and started to play a little bit more club throughout high school until I decided that I thought college would be a good opportunity for me.
Haley asks, when did you start going to college camps, clinics, and showcases?
I started my junior year. Um, I didn't start playing club until like end of sophomore year and then travel junior year. So went to festival, went to Disney. I played Windy City Field Hockey, great club, great community. So that was kind of my club experience. And then also with individual colleges junior year as well. I have a little bit of a later timeline, obviously. But definitely encourage going to clinics, showing interest in the schools that you really do care about in your junior fall, junior spring, and emailing the coaches that you're going to be there.
So Megan asks, what made you choose to go Division 3?
I love Division 3. I am so grateful that I ended up there. I sort of always knew, obviously starting a little bit late. I didn't necessarily like send for D1 early on. And my brother played D3 football, so I'd been exposed to kind of the D3 culture since I was young. And as soon as I like started talking to those coaches and going to visit, I knew that that kind of team balance, like the balance of student athletes at a D3 school, is kind of what I was looking for. I wanted strong academics and then also a social life. And the ability to play great field hockey, and I totally loved it. It is still really intense, and I think now we're seeing D3 getting more intense that we do have lifts out of season, and we had 10 spring practices. That's new in the NESCAC. So we do still do a lot as a team, but definitely less intense than D1 commitment level out of season. But definitely the balance of academics, athletics, and social life is why I chose to go D3.
Caitlin asked, what is one team dynamic that has stuck out to you as a D3 player?
Honestly, athleticism. My coach likes to recruit athletes, and whether that means we haven't all been playing field hockey for 10, 15 years, or people play multiple sports. We have a couple teammates who've done lacrosse as well, played ice hockey. So we're kind of maybe our that's just like a team dynamic that we have is we're athletic, we like to dive, especially our team, especially. My coach loves an athlete, someone who will run and get after it. Maybe not necessarily the most skilled ever field hockey players, but we do have some pretty highly skilled players as well. Um, so that's kind of like about a D3 field hockey player at Middlebury.
All right. So now we're going to get kind of into the actual questions, like about your season, your experience at Middlebury, and all that. So this is a question that we always ask everyone who comes on the Players Corner. Describe yourself without mentioning field hockey.
I would say I'm a passionate person. I'm curious and passionate about different issues, about the world, about studying like books. And so I have those kinds of interests academically. I was a political science major, so really passionate about politics and government and the law. And then just in my personal life, I am really outgoing and loud and cheerful and passionate in that way. So I love to just like be in conversation, cheer people on. Um, so passionate is a good adjective that I would like to use to describe myself outside of field hockey, which field hockey is definitely a big part of my life. So it's a nice question.
So you come from Illinois, which is, not exactly the hotbed for field hockey. So what about field hockey made you kind of fall in love with it?
It is truly such a fun sport. I just remember I'd grown up playing basketball and soccer, and the ability to like be so creative on the field hockey field, like using your reverse, like the different tricks you could do, the different receptions, the passing like opportunities. I thought it was just a really dynamic sport and it used what I had learned in other sports. I got to like put that to use in a new way. So yeah, as soon as I started playing, I just loved going out to the field and passing with friends. I was on a really Illinois is definitely it's a smaller field hockey community, but it's really like impressive and there's some really good athletes coming that have come out and are still coming out of Illinois. And so we would just go hit around and practices at Windy City and at my high school were really competitive. So I quickly just enjoyed playing. And I didn't have the same burnout that I'd kind of experienced in other sports where I'd played for so many years. It was new and exciting. And I was also surrounded by such fun teammates, my best friends, that it was like just hanging out was playing field hockey.
So in high school, you were a three-sport athlete and you reached 1,000 career points in basketball. Did you ever consider like also playing basketball along with field hockey, or was it always you just kind of wanted to focus on one sport in college?
I had considered it. I met with the basketball coach at Middlebury, and it's a great team. With COVID, it kind of stopped the plan. We weren't here. I was a freshman during COVID and we had to leave for like the whole winter, which is basketball practice season. We couldn't really go inside. So I just didn't train basketball for many months. And then I thought when I came back, I tried field hockey. It was our first field hockey season and it was amazing. And I definitely felt satisfied with my experience and like that it was enough of a commitment for me to just play field hockey. And I honestly like, who knows? Maybe I would have if COVID hadn't happened, played two sports. It's definitely an opportunity at Middlebury, but I definitely like was more in love with field hockey going into college. As I said, falling in love with the sport later. Um, that basketball wasn't as on the table for me.
Just like going like deep is some not saying that coaches like shy away from it, but like in a it seems like in Division 3 more people like will play multiple sports. Is that something like your coach like encourages, or is she just kind of like really open to the possibility of both of playing two sports?
She's really open to it. The level is so competitive that she's not like encouraging people to go
Maybe encourage
try.
was the right word, but yeah.
No, she's as supportive as you could be. I just
Oh,
thought like the level of obviously women's lacrosse and women's ice hockey and basketball, like other teams are so high that you have to come in with so much experience. But my coach loves it. Very supportive. I don't know if that's the same for all Division 3 coaches, but my coach like wants us to all go abroad. She wants the full dynamic D3 experience. So anytime that someone who's already committed for a different sport, or we have someone committed and they say, "Hey, I might want to join another team," she's totally in support of it. And she has relationships with obviously all of the other coaches at Middlebury, so they can like coordinate and discuss if there are like issues that arise, especially like winter sports, the seasons overlap a lot in October and November, so that requires a little bit more communication.
Yeah, I think that's one of the cool parts about D3 because you kind of hear about like the unicorns like McKenna Webster who do it at D1 and they get so much popularity and like not taking anything away from McKenna Webster, but like it's a very regular occurrence at Division 3. So I think it's kind of just like that's one of the benefits of D3 is that you could kind of do that. And then also the study abroad because you can't do that at D1, which I wish we could.
Yeah. Shout out to my teammate Audrey Lazar, who graduated in 2023. She played field hockey, ice hockey, and ran track in the spring. So she is a Middlebury unicorn and she's such a beast. So have to throw her in as like prime D3 athletic example.
I remember one time I was talking, I did a story on the Lycoming field hockey program, and that coach, like, dual athletes was so like prominent on their team. It was almost like there was more people doing two sports than people just playing field hockey. So I feel like it's not talked about enough how often it does occur in D3.
Yeah, totally. It depends on the school also, because some like they need athletes and they need numbers for different sports. But Middlebury definitely, I'm always impressed every year. Like these are really, it's D3, but in season is like a D1 workload, and we're there for so many hours that um, not everyone could be on that grind for the whole year. But it's definitely one of the best parts of D3 for sure.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of people like knocking D3, but I'm a very big advocate, if you've seen any of my social media, that Middlebury needs to play Northwestern in the spring fundraiser game, just so we can see specifically Amy Griffin, how she does against Northwestern. I need to see it. I've talked to the Northwestern coaches about this. They're not as on board as I would hope, but I need to see it.
We talk about this a lot. Northwestern's pretty exceptional. Amy is also very exceptional. So right now it's just maybe we'll just keep it as an idea and one day we're graduated. Amy, I think wants to tie up her turf shoes competitively, but that's a fun idea. And we're both from the Chicagoland area, so we love Northwestern.
All right. So, as we mentioned a little bit before, or as you mentioned before, you were a COVID freshman, which, is an amazing fate. I also had that fate. And for Division 3 programs, there was no fall season or spring season. So, what did kind of training look like for you guys? Were you on campus? Were you just training by yourselves? Like, how did that go for you guys?
We were able to be on campus. Middlebury is very remote. It was a very strict COVID policy. So we were able to be tested a lot and we lived on campus, but it was very small numbers. So a lot of my teammates took off either the fall or spring semester so that we could add it on to the end to have 4 seasons. And the policies were just really strict at Middlebury that a lot of non-athletes did that as well. But for us, day to day, we honestly trained so much. We would just go out into the field with masks on and shoot and do little stick skills. We did these like boxes where we would do pulls left and right, up and down hundreds of times. And we did that pretty much every day, maybe 5 days a week with our coaches in small groups, one person, 3 people, 5 people. And we couldn't even get within 6 feet of each other to play defense. Um, there's a lot of funny memories of that fall semester with my teammates that we like to joke about because it really was like just a very different entrance into collegiate field hockey. It was not you're thrown in and you're playing competitive games and you're traveling and you're doing all of that. Like we just got to know each other and we were playing field hockey outside. And I do think that it is the reason that I grew so much as a field hockey player. I just had to work on my stick skills, but and grow, like learn, push myself. But it was really hard without competition. It started to get like very repetitive just doing drills as someone who loves games.
So we're going to talk a little bit about your past seasons before we talk about your most recent season. So going into your sophomore year, do you remember what your expectations were like surrounding playing time?
Yes, I was not expecting any. I had these grades above me that were remarkable. My senior class, my sophomore season, my first season was exceptional. Aaron Nicholas, Isabel Chandler. These are some really, really great field hockey players and mentors to me. And then many grades below them too. I was not expecting anything. I felt very young on the team. So any opportunity that I had, I would take it. I trust our coaches and their decision making for who they want on the field. But no, I was just happy to I love to cheer on the sidelines. I took it upon myself to come up with some fun goal celebrations. So that was kind of what I was going in expecting um, my first season.
So that same season, you got to play in a couple of minutes in the NESCAC championship game, which you guys eventually won. So what was it like playing in such an important game, kind of in that environment for the first time?
That was one of the greatest games. We were losing to Bowdoin by 3 goals, and we came back to win 4-3. And my coach looked at us at halftime and was like, well, we could make this the best story ever. And we were like, okay. And Erin Nicholas took it upon herself to score 3 of those goals. It was unreal. And we had so many students there, so many fans. It was very memorable. And honestly, I've joked about this with my coaches. They put me in and I was really nervous. And I inserted on corners. And so they were like, we need an inserter in the game. And I just hustled. I just remember seeing a ball and I was like, I'm not sure I'm going to get there, but I'm just going to run after it. So I was really nervous. I think your first season, like I didn't have tons of minutes. So that is kind of what you need to grow more comfortable playing. So I just tried my best, but I have joked with them that I was really nervous playing in that game.
So that season, Middlebury went on to win the first of your four championships. What do you remember about how you felt winning your first one?
I was so happy. I just remember being in awe of my older teammates. I didn't play much those games, but it didn't matter because I was so incredibly happy and proud to be on a team with such amazing role models and people who work so hard and like seeing it pay off for all of us. It was just like the most joyful, especially after COVID, not even being together for a full year, having a lot of new freshmen come in, not knowing how they'd won a couple national championships prior to COVID, but like a lot changes when you have that much time off that I couldn't believe it, honestly. And I was just so happy to be there with my team. It was such a great game. And the celebrations in particular, as I mentioned, I had a lot of fun on the sidelines. We basket tossed one of our fellow freshmen to celebrate, and I will never forget it. So I was just happy and grateful that I had had those kinds of role models my first season.
So of your four championships, is there one that sticks out to you as more special than the other ones?
They all are awesome. And we went to overtime my second year, it was freezing in New Jersey, and we went to overtime. So I have to give that a special shout out. But this past season was my favorite. I'm biased. It was my senior year, but not winning conference, which I'm sure we will talk about, not winning to Tufts winning, and then us having the opportunity to play against Tufts in the national championship. It was so special having a different kind of trajectory this past season, different experiences, different personnel, losing and coming back to win in such a fun game. It was a beautiful day in Virginia that it was definitely my favorite championship game of the four.
A little fun fact about the championship at Rowan, that's the only field hockey game my brother has ever attended. I was not in it. He just went to Rowan, so he went to the finals.
Did you ever watch you play? He's never,
Nope.
I don't
That's
know why he chose that game. It was
It was so
literally
he was like
15 degrees.
calling me and he was like, "Yeah, me and my friend are going to the finals because it's at Rowan." And I'm like, "Dude, you don't watch field hockey." And he's like, "So it hit her foot. Why is it not a corner?" And I'm like, "Oh my God." But yeah, that's the only field hockey game in his entire life that he has attended was the national championship at Rowan because he was a Rowan student
Wow.
at the time in the freezing
It
cold.
was so cold. One of our sayings is any field, any weather, any team, any day. And we were complaining about how cold it was. And my coach just goes, I don't want to hear you guys talk about the weather. So then we didn't. We didn't talk about the weather. It was really cold, but that's not what matters when you're playing in the national championship. So that's pretty funny that your brother came to the coldest game I've ever played.
Yeah, I still don't know why he did, but
all right. We are now going to shift our focus to this past season. So going into the season, your team was on a 30 something game win streak and were once again the favorites to win. When you are heading into the season and preparing, do you feel that is added pressure to maintain the record, or is it something that you guys don't focus on?
We are not a team that talks about the record so much or like the long-term expectations. Middlebury Athletics did just post a video about our streaks, so this is like, I guess looking back is more reasonable. But looking forward, we do truly take it day by day. Like our preseason schedule is just Monday, Tuesday, and we don't even prepare for our Sun when we have a doubleheader weekend. We just focus on the Saturday game until Saturday afternoon, then we focus on the Sunday game. My coach really values and tells us to value every single day, practice, game as its own, and that eventually that can build up to a streak. And obviously we know about the streak when we're going into preseason, but we try to prioritize just getting better every single time you get onto the field and having joy in everything that we do. We love dancing and listening to music and being silly, that it's all about the spirit of Middlebury field hockey, especially in preseason, starting to prepare for games, more so than thinking about like the long-term winning streak.
so throughout this season, you scored 24 goals. Is there one goal that you like just that stands out to you as being like the coolest goal you scored this season?
I have two, if
Okay.
that's okay. Um, but it's the same theme. The theme is how often we rep in practice and then putting that into action in games. The first is the first goal against Johns Hopkins in the quarterfinal. It was on a corner, and I was left post, and Megan Fuqua, who has the best shot ever, received at the top of the circle, and she shot it, and I tipped it from the left post, and we were so happy. She and we practice that so much. I probably rep it 40 times per practice, like a couple days a week, and I didn't always find so much success, but I try. And so when we did that, that was pretty awesome. And it was just a beautiful day on Peter Cone Field. And then I have to shout out kind of similarly the my goal against Tufts in the national championship, um, where I found myself in the middle of the goal and Lily Branca took it the entire sideline, turned the baseline, beat the goal, passed it over the goalie. She has the best 3D skills in Division 3. It's like she's a hockey player and look like she is an athlete. And we also have repped so many times for the past 4 years, like during COVID and since COVID, her passing it to me in the middle and me being there at stroke to tip it in. So similarly to the other goal, we were like, we can't believe it. we've repped it millions of times and we've never actually scored in a game. So that was another favorite. And I'm getting really amped up about it because we really did practice them a lot. And it was really nice to see them pay off in such high stakes games.
In the semifinals of the NESCACs, you lost to Bates, and your team was now in a situation that none of you had ever been in. Was there anyone specific on the team who stepped up as a leader to help encourage the team throughout the start of the NCAA tournament?
What comes to mind is after the selection ceremony, we were so excited. We got an at-large bid. Like you said, it was unprecedented in our 4 years. And we had 9 seniors, so it was a really big senior class. We were very vocal, took up a lot of space. But after we saw that we not only got a bid, but were hosting, a junior, Grace Keefe, got up on a chair and she caught the attention of the room and she just said, "This is our time. Nothing else matters. This is when it matters, and we can do it." And she's pretty soft-spoken, Grace, but I was just so in awe of her in that moment that she took it upon herself as a junior to stand up and tell us that, like, we can do it and we can focus and succeed. And I'll just never forget that. She's a great person, great teammate, great friend. Um, and she'll be leading the team so well next year that I'm excited for her. But yeah, I mean, everyone stepped up when we were going into NCAAs, but that moment sticks with me and she sticks with me.
So going into NCAAs, what was kind of your mindset and the team's mindset around like what had happened previously with the losses and then, just heading into NCAAs, like where were you guys at?
We were excited. It had never felt before like it was a gift to be on that field. We'd gotten just our conference championship automatic bid all the other years. It was like we get to keep playing. We get to go into our locker room more. We get to play on Peter Cone. I didn't know if we were going to host after we lost. So all the seniors, we were very, very happy. And kind of similarly, it was just like, all right, let's prepare for Bryn Mawr and let's fix our weaknesses. There were certain things that led to us losing to Bates, and it was like, then just game on. Like, let's talk about it. Let's figure it out. We don't ever shy away from our weaknesses and our challenges, but we really talk about it and try to improve. So we just worked on being more gritty, finishing tips, defensive stability, just to name a few. But our coaches are really, really, really good at finding out what needs to be better and pushing us to be better. So it was never like down in the dumps. We were just happy and ready to get to work going to the next few games.
So, you the first round of the NCAAs, you rebound with a pretty big win, 9-0 over Bryn Mawr. Do you think having such a big win helped bring back a bit of confidence for your team?
Definitely. Uh, that first game back after a loss is really meaningful. But I wouldn't say that we were totally chill and loose. I mean, we had Hopkins the very next day. So there was still some nervous energy after Bryn Mawr. It was a great win and Bryn Mawr was a really good team. But I think once we'd won, we knew that we had to really focus in and that Hopkins, we would have to rise to another level to beat them.
So as you mentioned, the next game was Hopkins for the regional semifinals, and Hopkins has been like the chronic runner-up for the last couple of years with you guys facing them in the finals. No offense to Hopkins. Um, but were you guys nervous about meeting them earlier in the bracket, knowing that they were normally the top two?
Totally. I couldn't believe it. Like we'd played them in the national championship. It was we'd gotten used to that. Like they are such a good field hockey team that the fact that they were driving from Baltimore up to our campus was pretty surreal. And they are just a very good field hockey team and different than the teams that we play in the regular season. So it's always like you got to be on to play Hopkins and kind of adapt to a really physical, fast style of play. They have great penalty corners. So we definitely, the corner unit was really focused and had to learn a lot that night. So we were definitely nervous, but excited for Hopkins. Like we always can rise to a challenge. And it was just cool to play them at home on AstroTurf this year. I think that's what we were excited about, having the home field advantage, being comfortable. So it was definitely a good mix of nervous and excited energy playing them earlier on. But they are really a remarkable team, and they elevate D3 field hockey so much. So it was a pleasure to play them.
Quick inner question. So you guys have like a water turf, is the best way to describe it. Do you guys train at another facility before games on regular field turf, to get used to it?
Yeah, we'll usually play like we have a soccer field and a football field that are normal turf.
Okay.
So we normally will practice there the game or two before a field turf game.
Heading into the final, you were up against Tufts, who had broken your winning streak earlier in the season. Did you guys go back and watch the game to prepare, or was it just you were just taking the game as it came?
We definitely went back to the game to prepare. That is my coach's bread and butter. We are big film watchers. She probably stayed up for 3 days watching the first Tufts game. She's the best. Love D'Lo. And I mean that. She's like the best coach ever. And can go on and on. We we learned so much. That practice before we played Tufts like wasn't easy. We weren't doing everything right. They did a really high press on us in the first game, which contributed to our loss. They were really active. It felt like they had more players on the field than us. I remember that's how it felt. They were everywhere, so gritty. So we figured out that we needed to do it differently, that we needed to not give them that opportunity just to get the ball. I won't go into the details too much, but break the press sooner and then build up sooner where they weren't. And we just did everything to try and not fall into the same trap as the first time, and it was pretty successful. Um, it was a different game, so it felt different. It wasn't like we just did the exact opposite, but our coach is big on looking at what happened, watching, having us collectively watch and figure it out. And our practices are very much about spacing and pressing and outletting and where we're going to be, what issues might come up, very technical in that way. So we looked at our film and tried to make adjustments for the national championship.
So throughout the game so throughout the national championship game, you guys dominated in both shots and corners, but no one had scored until you broke through and scored the goal that you described a little bit earlier. So what was your reaction when you scored?
I'd honestly never felt like that. I just felt relieved. Um, and so I just let it all go. I lied down because I was like, oh my God. Um, it just felt like we'd been working for so many years, especially it was like from Lily to me. Lily's my age. We'd stayed for an extra season. It was like, wow, like we did it. And obviously that was just the first goal. Like the game wasn't over, but I couldn't believe it. I don't even like remember seeing it go in, but it's really fun to watch back. And then I was like, okay, now we can having a one goal advantage, not much, but it gives you a little bit of confidence to say like, all right, like this is ours, like don't give it up. And that was kind of the mentality then going forward is keep being aggressive offensively, but like we got this. So it was the first half was really competitive and it was fun to it was a crazy goal. Like they have Tufts has such great defense that getting in through the top is not really happening. We had to like Lily's entrance from the baseline, pretty unique uh assist to a goal. So it was a wonderful feeling of relief and excitement to lock in and try and keep it ours for the next few minutes.
As the seconds on the clock ticked down and you realized you won, what was the first thing that you did?
I just went to hug my team. I remember looking across at people's faces, um, and just seeing the joy. But also, the end of the game was not that big of it was of a relief. Like it was very stressful still because it was just one goal difference, and Tufts was in our defensive zone. So I was not like we weren't messing around. But I just remember being like, can this really happen? Can this really happen? And Amy Griffin, surprise, had like the last defensive stop and was carrying the ball towards the 50-yard line. And I was like, go, Amy, like keep it. Like a lot of the time, we're like, you got it, Amy. Like, she's great. So that is what I remember is watching Amy keep the ball in our possession until the clock winded down. And then we went to just hug our goalie and celebrate all together.
All right. And then our last question about this season is a bit of a silly one. But as you've won 4 championships, do they give you the same hats and shirts every year with just the last digit changed, or are they different each year?
They're different every year. They have different designs. It's actually the same across all sports and all divisions for the given year. And it's actually fun to really see the difference in how they've changed over time. We liked the hats also change, as you asked, the hats change. And this year's hat is really cool. So, yeah, I always do wonder that too.
So this is kind of like a future question. So now that you will be graduating, what is next for you?
I wish I had a more legitimate answer for you, but
It's
I
still
was a
early
little
in the
bit
Yeah, I feel that on a spiritual level when I graduate.
I was a little busy this fall to apply for jobs, but I plan to go to law school in a few years. Taking a few years off. I'm interested in law, government, policy, social justice types of work. So hope to get a job in a city soon and then enjoy post-grad a little bit before heading back to law school. I need a break from reading and the grind. So that's all that I have planned, but also like hang out with some teammates post-grad, try and find a field hockey pickup league to keep playing.
That's awesome.
Alrighty, so now we're gonna get into the fun questions, even though all of the questions have been fun. I mean, I don't know about the toughest questions, but somewhat
Oh,
fun.
they're fun. They're fun.
So what book are you currently reading or show are you currently binge watching?
Um, I just finished a really good historical fiction book, which I guess is kind of a funny answer, but it was called The House of Special Purpose. Really interesting, Russian historical fiction. I like reading. Um, my favorite book is The Interestings by Meg Wolitzer. I want to put that in if anyone wants to read it. And then I'm currently watching Veep, which is like a sitcom with Julia Louis-Dreyfus about she's like the vice president and it's hilarious. And it's supposed to be like the most real example of politics because it's like kind of a crazy mess. But I highly recommend. It's currently on HBO Max.
Have you ever watched a show called Designated Survivor? Because feel like based on those, you would like Designated Survivor.
Yes, I've watched a few of those episodes. That's like it's just it
It's
very
a lot.
intense. Very intense show. But I do like the political type shows, I have to admit.
Yeah, what's it called? The two of us are very big readers. I'm gonna plug Jill's reading Instagram real quick. Jill, what's your reading Instagram?
It is called Well Read Jill.
I will follow. That's
Okay.
I love reading. It's like the best way to get
Yeah, I need to get back
knowledge.
on. I kind of like got morphed into like a field hockey Instagram, so I need to like morph it back to like books. But I've been waiting because I just finished this book called Our Violent Ends. It was like a duology. It's a Romeo and Juliet retelling, but it takes place in 1920s Shanghai. And there's all like this historical political like it's so like I've been waiting to like put this review on, but like I haven't had I'm like still recovering from finishing that I haven't been able to formulate a review yet.
I'm tackling Stephen King's 11/22/63 right now.
Wow.
It is very long, but very good. So,
That's awesome. Reading is great. I feel like that's such a nice question.
Um, okay. Well, first we should ask, are you a coffee drinker? What is your go-to coffee order?
I love a fun latte, iced latte. Um, Vermont, big on the maple. They have, that's a big thing in Vermont. Iced maple latte, but I really do like a cinnamony, like a honey cinnamon latte or a vanilla latte is a classic. I usually have skim milk or 2%, depending on what the coffee shop has. But I feel like now, I mean, iced is really excellent. And I feel like now the girls have been reclaiming the latte, like it's back. And I appreciate that because it really is a nice sweet treat in the morning or in the afternoon. But I love going to coffee shops and doing work and having a coffee. So
do you have any game day superstitions?
I am not really superstitious. Our team collectively is superstitious. I guess we do a dance circle for the game and some other stuff. And I guess a superstition is like we have some songs that replay. So I guess I'll just speak for the team that it's like the songs, but the dance circle needs to be good. I guess if the dance circle's not good, then I'm not feeling great. But I don't have any individual superstitions, just that I hope everyone's having fun in the dance circle.
Do you have a favorite or who is your favorite teammate to room with?
Great question. Um, I have I have to shout out my final four roommates. Um, we were the only triple. We normally just do doubles, but with the numbers, we had a triple, and it was two freshmen and me. Tessa and Emma McNeely were the freshmen, and we just called ourselves the triple the whole weekend. And it's long because we got there on Wednesday and we stayed until Sunday. So you kind of remember your final four roommates a little bit better. It was just so fun. I felt like I love them so much. Like, I'm so excited for them. And they're such mature, like, smart freshmen. And it was just nice to, not only are they like chill and easy to room with, but we were talking about the season like it was their first time and it was my last few games. So it was just really full circle to ask them what they'd loved and experienced in their first season and what I was going to miss the most. I just like we fell asleep laughing and then talking about those kinds of topics, which is, I think, just exemplary of like what Middlebury field hockey, that it can be a senior and a couple freshmen and really get into it and enjoy each other's company. So it was great.
Okay, and then the last question is, do you have a pregame meal? What's your favorite pregame meal?
I do a yogurt bowl. We play like 11 a.m., 12 p.m. games. We don't do the Friday night like D1. So it's always breakfast. I love a Greek yogurt bowl, fruit, banana. I'm a big banana person. Granola. We go to the dining hall all together before every game at home. So that's definitely what I do most. I'm gluten free, not by choice. So that's like a pretty solid option for me.
So this has been so much fun. Thank you so much, Caroline, for joining us. We have no clue who next week's guest is, but check out the Instagram because it's probably on there. See you next week.
Thank you.